Hi everyone, Sothany Santano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Sloppy Jane album, Madison. This is the latest full-length LP from Sloppy Jane, a band led by singer, songwriter, and composer Haley Dahl, who is undergoing a pretty massive metamorphosis stylistically on this record. Previously, Sloppy Jane's music indulged in these really wild strains of experimental rock and art punk. At one point, even featured Phoebe Bridgers on bass, who I guess Haley has had a long-standing friendship with. And now you could say things are coming full circle with this record dropping via Phoebe's Dead Oceans imprint SADDEST Factory Records, which has put out some pretty cool stuff recently, but this may be my favorite SADDEST Factory record so far. Like I said, Madison encompasses a huge change for Sloppy Jane, as it's a much bigger record than the band has ever put out before, calling on 21 musicians to create these lavish beds of Baroque pop, classical music, and sometimes art pop with an ironic show tune flair. But what's even more interesting is that this LP was recorded in West Virginia's Lost World Caverns. Yes, the whole thing was performed in a cave. The front cover here is actually a photo taken in that cave, and two of the music videos released in promotion of this record seem to have been shot in the cave too. And this thing being in a cave does provide a certain sort of sonic vibe. These live performances captured among its stalactites feature some really natural acoustics that enhance the instrumentation, as well as make it bleed into itself in a very organic way. Even the way the quietest noises and instrumental nuances kind of just bounce around the recording, it's like another instrument there. But most importantly, Haley's songwriting and album sequencing caused Madison to feel not just like a batch of tracks, but an experience. The whole thing kicks off with this really orchestral overture that comes to a pounding climax, eventually transitioning into the painfully tragic party anthem, a grand tune that wrestles with a lot of feelings around body image, social acceptance, regret, and trying to forget trauma. All of these being filtered through these gorgeous rushes of classical instrumentation, as well as la-la choruses that carry sweet pop melodies and harrowing singing. The following Jesus and the Living Room Floor is kind of like the calm after the storm of the previous track. It's a 7-minute dirge, whisper quiet singing from Haley over some very subtle background vocals, as well as patient pianos. This track is a real slow burner, intensely dark, but does a great job lyrically of building up mystique around a variety of tropes that pop up across the record. Plastic horses, murder, police, and crime scenes, which brings us to the following cut, Judy's Bedroom, which is a cheeky acoustic song with sort of a camp sing-along vibe, but the kicker here is the song is about murder. Judy has fallen to pieces. Judy surrounded by policemen. Judy does whatever she pleases because she's with Jesus now, with Haley singing about fibers from the lining of the murderer's car being found in the bedroom, and that leading to his capture. And given the Forensic Files episode on this and the killer dying in prison last year, I'm assuming this song is inspired by the death of Judy Bruce in 1978. Culturally, I feel like this era, this time period, inspired, I guess, the musical aesthetic of this song and some others on the record too. The reference to Tintin character Bianca Castafiore on the interlude track named after her certainly calls back to a bygone era. The vocals on this one may be kind of grating, but the song is a genuinely kooky in a way that I admire. Most likely it also ties in with that character's background as an opera singer. Lullaby FORMICA also brings in more themes of innocence and toys, plastic horses into the fold. The track features a cute, twinkling instrumental that certainly is lullaby-like, but it does usher in a somewhat eerie undertone with some ghostly singing and strange laughs and commotion operating in the background, along with mentions of cops and robbers in the lyrics. The title track, Madison, is a big jaunty pick-me-up in the midst of the record. It's got a a real kind of campy jazz style to it, which is sweet and endearing on the surface, but then we have the lyrics, the writing of the track, which is another level of twisted, with mentions of drowning and swallowing quick drying concrete. Going further into it, the whole thing reads like the mad ramblings of a multi-millionaire hermit, and I absolutely adore the enchanting instrumental passages that follow. Then from here we launch into a pretty strong final leg. Wilt, I thought, was a decent cut with a rock flair, has somewhat of a driving groove to it. I think it's one of the few moments, though, where the acoustics of the cave eat up the instrumental of the song a bit too much. Wonderama is another powerful instrumental, though, with lots of orchestral layers of harp and horns and strings. Kind of a palate cleanser for the big finale of the album, the 9-minute The Constable, which I see as like a combination of the third act of a musical, Bright Eyes Lifted, that record, and the pop operatics of the Beatles and the Beach Boys. There's a real powerful sense of finality to the song too, not just in terms of its sound, but its lyrics as well, with all these mentions of saying goodbye. Really kind of ties up the whole project with a big, fat, extravagant bow. But then I love how after this we have an acoustic epilogue that I think thematically ties back into some of the songwriting themes earlier on the LP too, which again makes this whole record seem like a concept, not just in terms of how it was recorded and where it was performed, but in terms of what Haley is trying to get across in terms of a message here. This thing is a beautiful, odd, dazzling record that in so many ways reflects, you know, that cave setting it exists in. There's a powerful natural beauty to the whole thing, but then lurking in its shadows, there's a lot of mystery and secrecy as well. Feeling a decent 2 strong 8 on this one. Tran. Zishan, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video that you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Sloppy Jane, Madison, forever.